Hey, good morning, Thinker. How are you this morning? Okay, so here we are. It's Monday. Hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. Monday, March 13th, actually. And I'm going to put out some more paint. Today we're going to be working on these palm fronds. This is the last block-in areas. 3 palm fronds, really. This is the last part of the block-ins for the background. So I'm excited about that. Changed up my setup over the week. Oh, I'm glad you're well. Yeah, I'm doing well too. I didn't sleep very well last night or the night before. The time change always kind of messes up your sleep a little bit. Interesting fact, and this comes from Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, his book. The foremost researcher in sleep. Been doing it for 2.5 decades, almost 3 decades now. You know, the most cardiac incidents happen when we lose an hour of sleep during the time change. It's one of the biggest studies ever in the human race, because every single person in the United States, or in different countries, because different countries have daylight savings time, they all do it at once, and it's easy to get that. Will the background require a glazing layer? Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I could still see like some of the drawing through the background. Yep, we still have a lot to do on this. We have a wonderful underlayer with this so far. And I want to check. Yeah, that's... Even the lightest color is ready for glazing layers. So that's good. Okay. Palm fronds. And I'm going to do this without any medium, because I was using that medium before. Oh wow, that's bone dry now. So there you go. There's checking even what I did on Saturday is completely dry. And the temperature and humidity matters as far as that is concerned as well. Especially the temperature. I'm not sure about the humidity. I know it plays a part in this. But we keep it about, well, 69 in our house. But my office stays a bit warmer, around 70, 71. Office/studio. Sorry, I keep reaching down to grab my tea. Okay. So everything that we used that medium with is dry. There are places I can see that are just extremely dull, so it's going to be fun bringing that back with a oiling out layer. All right, let's get moving. What is the general color value saturation of this palm frond? I'll focus on the light area. And I'm going to start with some of this cad green, because I want to get rid of this cadmium green. I want to get rid of all my cadmiums. I decided to go away from cadmiums, but I still have tubes of cadmiums left that I want to use up. It may take a while. I don't like the heavy metals, but I'm very careful with them. And as long as you don't get paint all over you, it shouldn't be a problem. So cadmium green, a bit of sap green to darken it up and to pull down the um, opacity. And I just realized like my hand is right in the way of me making mixtures, so I'm gonna have to adjust that so you guys can see me mixing up the paint. I'm also adding in some transparent earth orange to bring that intensity down, because I think that is too intense. We could always bring it back with more cadmium green or some yellow. So let's see where that's at. Yeah, that might be pretty good. It's bright, not super bright, and we have places to go on that. So I also have this Courbet green down here by Williamsburg. It was a sample tube that I got like years ago. So this is coming in handy. It's a very desaturated green as well. So this will be very helpful for the dark areas of this palm frond. And then I also have some very warm and yellowish areas. So I'm going to just mix up a pile of transparent earth orange along with Naphthol Scarlet. Oh, I'm sorry, Hansa Yellow Medium, not Naphthol Scarlet. That's red. Although, I was thinking about adding a little bit of red in there anyways. So that's like the dead part of the palm frond. And then let's mix up a very dark green. I'm going to turn this brush into my dark brush with this mixture. So we're going to use some burnt umber, not a ton. And then I'm going to go with the Courbet green because it's got a very dark value to it. A little bit of blue. And a very small bit of alizarin permanent. Maybe some more blue. There we go. So that's going to be a very nice, dark, desaturated color that we can pull into. And this will go in, you know, kind of where the palm fronds turn down in places. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to switch brushes to a different brush. This will be my light brush today. And I'll start kind of pulling into this. I will have to mix up more of this paint. I haven't mixed up a lot of it. I've really embraced the like constantly mixing up new paint. The reason why is I love the variation and hue and saturation and value you can get. As long as the value change is very subtle. And I don't know where these colors are yet. I don't know their relative. I don't have a relative understanding of this color that I'm putting down. The only way to really get that is just to put down the color. And then, you know, kind of step back and look at it. Or I could just look at the stream. I mean, that's like stepping 20 feet back. Stream is like watching myself paint is actually really helpful to see where I'm at. It's not a vanity thing. When I paint on my own, I'll probably record myself. Just so I can watch, you know, it unfold and fix any issues right away. So one thing about these cadmium colors that I have on here for right now, and it's only for right now, is cadmiums are opaque paint. That's the reason why they're so popular, is because they're very bright yellow or very bright red. They're very bright colors. And any other color that you can make from any other material is going to be semi-transparent or transparent. So many artists love cadmiums because they can get those bright colors in an opaque paint. So it works wonderful for, you know, your initial layers, but not so good for glazing layers. You really want to use transparent or semi-transparent paints for your glazing layers. And it was a good question about if the background needs glazing layers. I think it does. I mean, really, it's kind of a general thing. If I spent more time on the background in this mode, well, at least the previous streams where I was working on the background and was in wet paint, I could get closer and closer to saying, oh no, yeah, I think it's fine the way it is. But I put it down really quickly, so yeah, it will need some work to it, in my opinion. And again, I mean, you could throw it down really quickly and say, oh, that's fine. I like how rough it is. And you know, it's really a preference. The purpose of the glazing layers is to bring more, well, really more of everything. More accurate drawing, more accurate value, accuracy in color, saturation, all the aspects of color, and to increase texture and interest in the painting. I want to do it mainly because in the background before, it was kind of like this generalization of greens, you know, just several different values of green. And it didn't look so good, and we ended up adding in a whole bunch of like really interesting colors, and I really like the way that looks, so yeah, I want to repeat that. One thing that I also want to keep in mind, because I just thought of it, because I'm looking at the edges that I'm creating on this palm frond, and the edges are really sharp. It will eventually, I think, get some sharp edges, but for right now, I want to keep it soft. But like I said before, you want to keep your edges soft at the beginning. It's always easier to sharpen up a soft edge when the paint is dry rather than trying to soften a sharp edge while it's dry. I hope that makes sense. It's easier to make an edge harder over dry paint than it is to blend dry paint. Well, you can't blend dry paint, right? So it's a lot harder. You have to do like multiple layers to, or go back over with opaque paint to adjust those hard edges. I'm adding more of this cadmium green, and then subsequently I'll have to add everything else. And I really don't want to keep the cadmium green the way it is. It's too intense. Yeah, that's as intense as I want to go for right now. I prefer more blue in the background as a complement to the orange and the tiger. I think the digital tiger really pops. Yeah, what's interesting is I'm looking at it on my iPad and I don't see any of that blue in the background. I mean, it could be the coloration of the screens. You know, screens are all different. But I can agree with you. Actually, when I look at it on my phone, like, and I'm looking at my painting and I see a lot of, it's very cool back there. But when I look at the stream on my phone, it doesn't look that cool. It looks a bit warm. And, you know, as we're talking about, this is something you have to be careful with. I mean, I learned this through web development. What you see on your screen is completely different than 90% of all the other screens out there. I mean, as far as color, and how things are, I mean, depending on screen size, sizes of things will change, orientations will change. But no, I understand what you said. Like, I'll make sure that we get a lot of blue back there, lots of teals to offset the orange. And I agree. I like that high contrast within the hue. Yeah, definitely. And the glazing layers will really help do that. Easily, actually. So I'm really in the mood today to take my time with this. I mean, that's an interesting thing about art is recognizing your mood. And, you know, really having kind of a, you know thyself, right? If you're really upset, things aren't going well, probably not the best time to work on, you know, the most important parts of a painting. You know, just go do a quick sketch instead. You know, do something. But, you know, if you're flustered, if you're tired, if you're just, you know, just things aren't working out that day. I mean, recognize it. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just say, yeah, you know, that's the way I feel today. It's totally cool. Then plan accordingly with your artwork. So, you know, actually the last couple streams on this, I just wanted to get a bunch of things down quickly. I was kind of impatient. I was feeling that impatience, so I put a lot of paint down. It turned out okay. So kind of got lucky on that, but today I feel like, you know, just kind of calm progression. And I really think that this is the best way to paint. if you look at any master artist out there, like artists that are just really good, I like watching Robert Liberace paint. He's a figure artist. And you know, it looks like that he's just taking his time, just, you know, barely putting anything down. Yet, what comes from it is, you know, a beautiful painting that seems to like materialize really quickly. It's like, wow, I mean, he's barely working fast at all, yet things are happening really quickly. And the reason for that is, you know, you get to a point where everything you put down is finished or accurate enough to say that it's finished. And through that accuracy, that's where the best speed kind of comes in. It's like Richard Schmidt says, you know, you could put it on with a shovel, just make sure you put it in the right place. Got a lot of texture in this frond, so I'm gonna pull some of it back. I have some places for the eye to kind of rest within that palm frond. So how's any painting going for you, Thinker? How are things progressing in your artistic journey? I know we had talked about landscapes last time. It's a very approachable subject by a wide audience. It'd be interesting to see how you paint some hard rock music, Jimi Hendrix. Just to see how it would change your style. Oh wow. There's actually, I'm looking at it right now. It's right up on my wall behind me. But there's a painting. It's one of my vulnerability figures. It's I can't remember which one it was. Maybe 2, vulnerability 2. Very, well, it's representational, but very textural. Yeah, I was listening to some really what was I listening to? I wasn't listening to hard rock like Jimi Hendrix, although Jimi Hendrix is fantastic. I was listening, I remember now, I was listening to, it's a genre of music where they do like film scores, like epic film scores. And there's all these artists out there that, I mean, there's no lyrics or anything to it. They just make music that you could envision in a movie, like an epic battle scene. And it was fantastic. I was listening to that, and I was standing, and I was that's the kind of music where when you're painting, you want to stand for it. Sitting down just doesn't do it. And I was all over the place. Yeah, I was really moving. And I've done that for a lot of paintings. Actually was, the painting I don't have on my website still. I need to get that up. It's a landscape painting I did, a very abstract landscape I did. I was listening to some very, I don't know, not hard music, but not super hard rock, but music with a lot of feeling to it. Yeah. Actually, I really enjoyed when I was working digitally. I could have my headphones on and listen to the music that I have piped into the live stream, what you're listening to right now. But in this setup, I can't have my headphones on, so I don't hear the music that you're hearing. I kind of like listening to it. If I played music here, you would hear it and it would echo and it would sound terrible, so I would have to have headphones on again. Yeah, I really don't like that right there. Something about that palm front right there, it just looks terrible. I have to work on that a little bit. Well, first off, the value from the top to the side is incorrect. It needs to be lighter up here and then darker on the side, but not too light. So it kind of transitions right here. I've got two paintings I'm working right now. One is of Lake Louise, Banff, Canada. Oh, Banff, Canada. Oh my gosh. We were going to vacation out there, but I had to cancel because of work. It's beautiful out there. The other is of a single Buckingham Palace guard standing in an archway. Oh, interesting. So figurative work. Nice. That's a difficult pose for a figure. It's actually what's difficult to do because there's no change in it, but it works perfectly with like the canon of proportions for a figure. You don't get that very much. Like when they talk about proportions for a figure, you're like, well, you know, when are you going to be painting a figure that's standing erect like a soldier? Well, there you go. Those sound great. Whenever you finish those, you got to share them. Yeah, that's actually a good question. So what's your plans for, you know, the future of your artwork? Thinker, what would you like? Let's say you finish, you know, the next 3 or 4 paintings or these 2 paintings. What do you want to do with them? Okay. Now that I have some of that established, the first thing that I notice is that it is way too warm. So we need to cool this off. What's the best way to cool it off? Is it too intense? So we'll ask the questions. You know, lighter or darker? Neither. I think the value is pretty good. More saturated, less saturated. Well, if I cool it off, it's going to be less saturated, so less saturated. And then closer to blue. So less saturated, closer to blue. The best blue that I could probably add to this would be... because this is going to change the value. Here's a trick that I want to show you. So for example, I have these piles of green, this kind of lighter green here. where I'm hovering my brush over. And I want to cool it off, so I want to add blue. So I'm going to pick up ultramarine blue, which is of much darker value. But I don't want to add just ultramarine blue directly to it. That will change that value. I mean, you can, and then you would change within that paint pile, okay? But another way to do it is to put the blue down, like this ultramarine blue, away from it, and then add a bit of whatever color you need to bring that blue value to the same value as the green you're going to add it to. So I'm lighting up this ultramarine blue to try and get it, and this is where it's hard because you're comparing two different hues. So I'm lightening this up, and that's a pretty good value, what I got there. I think it's pretty close. And when you add it to the green now, well, it could have been a bit lighter now that I add it. But for the most part, you can keep your same value that you have. It's just now it's a lot cooler. Maybe too cool. There was a bit too much blue into that. So let's add a little bit of cadmium green and our Hansa yellow medium to bring it back. There we go. So that's going to be much cooler. So, okay, you say, mostly I'm painting for myself. I don't have enough self-confidence to share with a wide audience. Oh. I can totally understand that. I think that hits directly to the heart of many artists, including myself. I put my work out there, but I tell you what, it's hard almost every single time. And I think you're right. I think, the operative word there is confidence. Having that confidence. And also an understanding of where you're at compared to so many others. You know what I will do? I'll mix up a little bit of teal as well down here. It's so intense. But having an understanding, going to galleries, wherever you would share your work, and looking at other artists and seeing what they've shared. And 9 times out of 10, you'll find artists that are the same skill level as you. And somewhere, somehow, they found that confidence to share their work. And it kind of it emboldens me, because I think, this is all a very opinionated area. It's all about opinion. And where you may not like what you've done, other people could respond to it tremendously. And you think, well, wow, if this person who's at the same level as me shared their work, I think I can do the same. So when you're ready, I would encourage you to share. And you don't have to go right for the most prominent gallery next to you, What's the easiest way that you can share that takes the least amount of confidence. You're like, okay, well, it doesn't take much to post it on social media, you know? Maybe, I mean, you're on YouTube under a pseudonym. Maybe the next thing is to go online, create a pseudonym on Instagram or a new account on Instagram or Facebook and post there. I mean, heck, you could be like Banksy. No one knows that person's real name. Well, I'm sure some people do, but multi-million-dollar artist that sells their work. People excavate their work off of walls to own it. Still doesn't show. But of course, that's kind of like a different thing because they are essentially breaking the law, right? Okay, I need more paint. We're going to start with what I started with, which is the cadmium green. I'm going to add like a big dollop on here. But now I'm going to add in some of this cadmium lemon, which is super bright. Holy cow. Let's jump into that blue and transparent earth orange to make it more into a cooler gray. Super intense still. It's a lot of paint there. Help me out, Courbet green. There we go. It's going to darken it up. I like that you say that you're painting for yourself. Always paint for yourself. I think you can still do that and share. You know, it's a yes and answer, not an either or. Make the paintings that you want to make, that you want to see, that you want to live with, that come from your heart. That's a difficult thing to do sometimes as well, which is interesting. As artists, we are celebrated for our creativity and our difference. Yet when you make paintings that a lot of people don't like, what you'll get in return, especially from people close to you, family and friends, is comments like, why do you have to do paintings like that? Why don't you make a painting that looks like this? I don't think that's going to sell. you know, these kind of comments. And so it becomes difficult because you feel like you're doing, you know, a disservice, like you're letting someone down. And so it's really easy to say, okay, all right, yeah. Oh, I see in these galleries that landscapes are selling more than anything. And, you know, I really do want to make a business. So, man, maybe I should just do landscapes. There's tons of people that fall into that trap. The problem with that is if you're not painting true to yourself, if you're painting whatever you think the market wants, and maybe you become, the worst thing that could happen is that you become successful in painting something you don't want to paint. You've basically turned your love into a job. A job that you don't like getting up and going to every day. I love painting nude figures. I love the body. I love painting the body. I love studying the anatomy of the body. I love describing skin on canvas and life. I love paintings with meaning. I love high contrast. I love paintings that are dark and moody. This is what I love to paint. And if you get into marketing, the first thing that you do, because this is a marketing thing. I mean, honestly, you can't separate art from marketing if you want to become a full-time artist. You don't change the way that you paint or what you love to paint. What you do is you begin alienating the people that don't like what you like. And you do it intentionally. People that don't like your style or the subject matter that you paint, but that you love to paint, will go away. And then eventually the people that do respond, because if you respond to it, others will respond to it. Eventually, when you find your avatars, your audience, the people that understand, they will respond to the paintings that you make. And they will love you even more for that because you're being authentic to yourself. I would say, you know, always follow what you love. Inevitably, those kind of statements get a, yeah, but I want to make money doing my artwork. We'll find the right audience. For example, nude figures really don't sell well in America because Americans have a how can I be nice about it? Americans have an aversion to the nude figure. It's overly sexualized in the brains of many Americans. This country is founded on Protestant beliefs, and that continues today, where there's many other countries out there where the nude figure is something that is seen every single day. I mean, go to Italy, you know, Florence, Italy. You see nude figures all over the place. Of course, some of them are covered with leaves in the very private parts. But, there's this understanding that, this is art. This is a human body. There's a beauty there. And of course, there is a lot of art out there that is very sexual in nature. So I prefer, the more, celebration of the body as it is, not a sexualized form. But finding your audience is important. And today, and in our world today, is such a free, there's so much more freedom that we have now with being able to post the art that we love. I've just begun posting my artwork on Saatchi.com, Saatchi. You can do a search for me, Chris Beaven, on there, and you can see all my artwork starting to go up on there. I like the site because there are a lot of figurative works there, a lot of nude figurative works that are selling. And I hope I can reach an audience there. People around the world that would be willing to live with the figures that I have. There's such a, even really prominent artists that I've spoken to, they have very, they're thinking about me or you to help you out because, they want you to succeed because they've been where you were. And they'll say something like, well, you really want, at the end of the day, you have to create art that people want to live with. And in their head, they're thinking about, John Doe down the street. And when they say that to you, you're probably thinking about, the person at the gallery next door. And if you live in a very, if you live in an area where they would not accept, the art that you want to make, that's going to be very discouraging. So you have to think more broadly on that. You have to think about the rest of the world. There's 8 billion people on this planet. If you found 0.001% of those people and they loved your artwork, you would never have to work another day in your life. Just do your art every day because hundreds of thousands of people would love it. I'm not sure if that math is actually correct, but 8 billion is a huge number. Okay, let me get back to what I'm actually doing here. So I'm fairly unhappy with a lot of the colors that I created in here. But like I've said multiple times before, the way that I set up my, this process is for these kind of steps. I always have a net to fall into. These colors may not look, the way that I want them to look, but that's okay because I do have those subsequent layers to help with that. What's important is that this layer has correctly established values. So as long as my values are on, and as I squint and lean back, I feel like they are for the most part. Once I have my values there, the subsequent glazing layers, or even opaque layers if I choose to go over this, to adjust the color, it's easier to adjust hues and saturations. and even values with glazing, it'll be no problem to adjust those colors. And I'll add something else to that, value and drawing as well. As long as your drawing's good and your value's good. And the one thing I'm noticing right now, as far as drawing's concerned, hopefully you can see this. I know this is to the very far right of where you're looking. And it's kind of dark over here for you on your stream. I mean, it's really bright for me, but I guess I could, let me see if I can up the ISO. There you go. It's really bright now. Yeah, that worked. Yeah, I'm looking at it on the stream now. So there, I always talk about this multiple times when we were creating this painting, and I keep doing it, and you will keep doing it in your paintings. Because as humans, we like order. We like repetition. We like the music to have a beat to it that is synchronous. Boom, 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 boom. But nature is never, ever like that. Nature is random. It's completely random. And here I have that beat. Boom, 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 boom. It's like perfect spacing between the leaves of the palm fronds. Even the lengths are the same, all through here. It's boring. It doesn't look right. It doesn't look like nature. It looks like some person decided to zone out while they were painting because they were talking about existential crises for artists. That's exactly what I did. Okay, so let's change it up. The great thing is I have a dark background. And it'll be easy for me to mix up a blue and a burnt umber in my dark brush. And to really adjust this drawing. How do I adjust this? Let's see. Let's take the split of this leaf a lot further back. And then let's turn the leaf and shorten it a bit. And maybe even thin it out some. Kind of killed the elegance of it too, and that's good. All right, so that one's different. I'm gonna fade it in as well. This part of the palm frond, it gets really dark back here. I want it to kind of fade into a very darker area. All right, and the next one, I want to have more arch to it. Maybe bring it down a lot further. Should probably go straight down with it, really. I'm putting in a little bit of the palm frond in the back as well. Just to get this idea of overlap happening. So this weekend, I think it was yesterday or day before yesterday, I can't remember, I released a preview on YouTube for my next tutorial, which is out now. It's on Gumroad. It's how to paint the mouths in oil. 3 different mouths in oil. Finally got that out. Edited it all up. I can't remember how long it is, like 6 hours of video. Instructional video going through the whole process. In that video, I actually paint on a kind of a lighter canvas. It's not white. It's kind of like a beige color. Like a subdued white. It's actually from an old painting that I did years ago. It was like the first version of my Patrick painting that I've done. I did, and I wasn't liking it, so I took it off the stretcher bars and I cut up the canvas, and I said, okay, I'm going to use these for smaller 8x10 paintings. And then, you know, years went by and I never did anything with them. So that's out there. How to paint the mouths in oil. 6 hours of video, instruction throughout for $1. Ridiculous value. And that's what I want to do, is provide tremendous value and help other artists become better at oil painting. Or just to see, you know, a different way to paint without solvents, and a 2-stage process. I even show, because this, and within that one, I'm working up from photos that I kind of put together, that I cut out, and I show how to do that in Krita. Which, now that I think about it, you know, after the fact, I may do that different in the future. You know, creating more of finished paintings. This is more of kind of like an how-to. So it worked really well for the how-to. But in the future, it'd be nice, like if I'm doing a portrait, because we were talking about portraits there, Thinker. Probably the next portraits I'll do will turn into a tutorial as well. Okay, I'm going to stand back from this and see where we're at while I get some tea as well. Okay. Yeah, the values on that are really good. I think I got that in. I think I fixed any kind of drawing issues that we have. I could probably darken up some of the turn where the leaves kind of turn down. It does need to be cooler for the most part, and we have those really bright highlights that hit it in a couple places. So those could be added. I'll probably go ahead and add those now. They're better to add. It's better to add those really bright places within the opaque paint layer. Which I didn't do on the tiger's head, which will be fine because if you don't do that, it's not the end of the world. What you can do is with your subsequent layers, you don't have to glaze with them. You could still use opaque paint. So it could be a combination of glazing and opaque or semi-transparent paint to lighten things up. Let's go ahead and add those brightest whites. And it looks like I made both brushes into my dark brush, and that's okay. Because it's easy to get back. I'll just dip right into this cadmium green that's just super bright. That'll turn my brush right into a lighter brush right away. You tint all the colors that are in the hairs of your brush back to where you want. And I'm going to keep this kind of cool. These brighter areas I'm going to keep at a cool tone. Just by adding white instead of yellow and maybe a little bit of blue. Or maybe they're better with kind of a warmer color. I don't know. We can adjust that hue later on, I think. I think the value is the most important right now. So we have a light area hitting right here. One of the things to understand well, it just takes kind of practice, is when you have wet paint that you're painting into and you want to lay something over it without the paint on the bottom affecting it. Or the first layer really affecting it. It's not super easy to do for the most part because if the paint beneath is really thick, doesn't have a lot of medium like this, like some of the paint in here that I've already put down, you're going to pick up some of that paint and it's going to mix with what you have in your brush. And it's only a huge issue if the value that you're putting over the value underneath are kind of like polar opposites, like on either side of the spectrum. That's where it becomes really difficult. But for the most part, if you're running into that issue where you have, right here, I have this kind of darker green in the background. The best thing to do is mix up a color that is much brighter than what you think it should be, and then let the mix happen, and it will bring it down to the value where you think it should be. If that makes sense, where you're instead of trying to work against the paint beneath, you're working with it. You're saying, oh, okay, I know that the wet paint beneath is going to darken this up a little bit, so let me start out really bright. And it will get to exactly where I want if I let that underneath paint darken it up. And vice versa. I mean, if you're going dark on light, you know, the same way there. But really kind of working with it. So if you notice, my streams have gotten longer recently. Pretty simple reason for that. I really enjoy oil painting. Maybe more than I enjoy digital. I mean, I've been doing oil painting for a lot longer than digital, but there's something about this that I really enjoy, and I could sit here for a lot longer. So I got a question for you, thinker. Who are artists that you admire, that you look at their style of painting and you're like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to accomplish or be able to do? And while you're thinking about it and answering that, I'll answer for myself as well. So my favorite artists, the ones that I like the most, that I have the most books on, actually by far, I have the most books on Andrew Wyeth. I love Andrew Wyeth. I even tried egg tempera once. Put that down really quickly. Wow, did not like that. Because he painted using egg tempera and watercolor. In a lot of ways, like a dry brush watercolor. So what do I like about Andrew Wyeth is a lot of the texture in his work, the extreme detail. He was a master draftsman. I mean, the guy could render anything perfectly. I just marvel at one of his drawings where he drew a beehive in the utmost detail. Just every little octagon. Is it octagon? Yeah, little octagons that the bees make, and you know, it was crazy. And you know, his flexibility in that as well. So he would draw a beehive in utmost detail, or a crow in utmost detail. But then on one of his paintings, he would take ink and pour it all over the painting in this kind of abstract manner, and that would make trees. So he had this control that's fantastic. I love Andrew Wyeth. Who else? Oh man, I know Andrew Wyeth, but now I'm looking at my, oh, Rembrandt. Oh, Van Gogh, duh, jeez. Rembrandt, Van Gogh. Oh, Kehinde Wiley, as far as contemporary living artists, he's my hero. Kehinde Wiley. Just beautiful figurative works that are making fantastic statements in the art world, or have made. Yeah, if you know, my wish for my future beyond, you know, just being able to paint every day would be to have a painting in a museum one day. And here's what it takes to get a painting in a museum. Not only does it have to be masterfully done, but it has to say something. It has to speak to an audience. It has to have more than just a narrative, but something that, moves people to action in some way. That speaks to, either atrocities that are happening now, or as a wider conversation with our current reality. It goes beyond the canvas. It goes beyond the paint. It's one of the hardest things to do because we have one single image to do that in. We don't have 24 per second. Anyway, so that's my favorites, definitely. People, artists that I look at all the time. I mean, that's not even counting all the artists that I follow on ArtStation and all kinds of stuff. Your turn, thinker. If you want to answer, you don't have to answer. I feel a need to include, anyone else that's commenting on the stream that's here. I feel a need to include them in the conversation and not, because you're part of this, and I want to make you part of it. It's not all about me all the time. Adding in some crazy blues here. I want to get darker on them though. Okay. I believe we have come to a stopping point for this palm frond and for the stream. Yeah. Tomorrow what I'll do is, I was able to finish the first layer on this palm frond. So tomorrow, I'm confident that I can finish the first layer on the palm frond beneath. Yeah, no problem. And then the day after that, hopefully I can finish the palm frond down at the bottom. It's much more complex. It has a lot of things going to it, so it could be a bit harder to do. But we'll see. We shall see. Oh, and then there's this little piece of palm frond that's sticking out on the left side of the tiger that I'll have to do as well. Okay. Oh, Michelangelo, Rembrandt, Schmid, yeah, and Loomis. You know Loomis. That's awesome. Yeah, Andrew Loomis is fantastic. Michelangelo's a good one too. Especially for sculpture. Sculpture is one of those things, I'll talk as I clean up my palette. Sculpture is one of those things where, I've had people look at my artwork and tell me, like, man, that is so amazing. I couldn't do that in a million years. My response to that is, well, you just practice. That's all it takes. But when I look at sculpture, like from Bernini or Michelangelo, especially Bernini. Jeez, I got paint on my finger. I say the same thing. I couldn't do that in a million years. It just seems, it seems just so unreachable. It's so amazing. Like, you know, it's magic to me. Like, how would you ever do that? I think there is one sculpture by Bernini. It's, I think it's called like the Rape of Persephone, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, it's you know, it's a Greek mythology, I think, or Greek or Roman myth. And the guy is holding this woman in the air, like obviously like abducting her or something like that. And there's just one part of it where his hand has an impression on her thigh. And even though I know it's rock, I know it's marble, it freaking looks like skin. It's just like you could tell, okay, there's fat and sinew and everything under her thigh and he's pressing into it. And it's crazy. It's amazing. Like, wow, that's so fantastic. You know, Michelangelo and the Pietà. Not very impressed by Michelangelo's David, though, honestly. And of course, the Sistine Chapel by Michelangelo is, you know, a tour de force in anything art related. Yeah. Anything Rembrandt. Yeah, anything Rembrandt, even his earliest works. Yeah, just fantastic. Richard Schmid, ugh, man, Alla Prima in his book. Just beautiful. Texture, brushwork. Like if Sargent, you know, could take his painting further, you know, in a contemporary sense, he would be Richard Schmid, right? Andrew Loomis. As far as learning how to draw the form, you know, simply, like, what is this book? Fun with a Pencil. And he has the Loomis head. Oh, wow. I mean, that's the perfect beginning for a head, like figuring out how to draw the head. It's just absolutely fantastic. I don't have any Loomis books. They're so expensive. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for joining the stream today. And I will see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Have a wonderful day.